Hey, welcome back to the Full Disclosure Podcast, where we rip apart the nonsense shaping our world and your wallet. Today's show's bursting at the seams with stories so absurd they'll make your head spin. Trust me, these aren't just California problems that we're going to discuss. They're coming for you next. So let's dive into the madness. But hey, before we do that, do me a favor, smash that subscribe button below, ring that bell so you don't miss out on future episodes. I'd love to hear your comments and your feedback. So let me know what you think and where you're spotting opportunities or disasters in today's mess of an environment that we're living in. Also, quick plug, my cash flow wealth building system is blowing up right now. And I can understand why, given everything that's going on today, people are desperate for additional income. That's exactly what this does. It's a dead simple strategy where I walk you through a simple process to spot winning stocks fast. I then teach you how to use basic indicators to know when to jump in and out of those stocks, turning each trade into instant cash flow every single time. Look, thousands of people are on board with this. This strategy has been around for decades. But sadly, in my experience, I'd say 99% of people out there have no clue it exists. And when you consider that the median 401k balance for someone 65 years old, the median balance at 65 is $89,000. I mean, how long is $89,000 going to last for the next 30 years in retirement? It won't. It's impossible. That's the beauty of this proven strategy, is that you can turn that $89,000 into consistent monthly income or weekly income, depending on how you set it up. Consistently, you can turn that $89,000 into a pension for life. And that's why I'm trying to spread the word, because it's a proven, like I said, strategy that generates quick income on every single trade. And by the way, it is not day trading. I certainly don't have time for that. I'm sure you don't either. All right, with that, so let's get the show on the road. And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, it did. And take a wild guess where. I kind of teased it in the beginning. Yep, California. Picking up from last week, more bizarre and tragic stories are unfolding every single day. And don't kid yourself into thinking it won't affect you just because you don't live there. Look, what happens in California doesn't just stay in California. Historically, when you see these crazy proposals, they don't just stay there. They spread like wildfire, even into Europe and around the world. Case in point, Rubio's Coastal Grill, a California-based Mexican restaurant chain, very, very popular, just announced they're shutting down 48 of their locations. Why? Well, take a wild guess. Of course, skyrocketing business costs. According to the LA Times, Rubio's decided to close nearly a third of its restaurants, more possibly to come, after, quote, reviewing their operations and the current business climate. Basically, classic corporate speak for, we're screwed, folks. We're doing business in California. This is the fast food joint that basically introduced the fish taco to America. And personally, I love Rubio's. I'm a huge fan of their chicken tacos. And all of this is thanks to left-wing policies jacking up minimum wages in their misguided, total BS effort to help people, which let's be real, is always backfires. I mean, if they just left us alone, right? Just leave us alone, get out of our lives, we'd be so much wealthier and happier. And when you throw in Bidenomics with its crazy inflation, you've got a recipe for disaster. That's basically caused a wildfire across the state. I mean, get this. Remember when the $5 footlong at Subway actually cost $5? I mean, imagine that. The $5 footlong cost $5. Well, today that $5 footlong is $8. And 80% of Americans now say eating fast food is a luxury, folks. And of course, politicians claim that they're helping the little guy. But it's always the little guy who always gets crushed because the harmful consequences always far outweigh these so-called benefits they gaslight us with. Fewer businesses are willing to set up shop in California or any other heavily regulated state because of this nonsense. And since the $20 minimum wage hike hit California, 10,000 fast food jobs have vanished since September. Gone. 2 weeks ago, I mentioned the largest seafood chain, Red Lobster, filing for bankruptcy. Pizza Hut is slashing staff, and even McDonald's is struggling to keep items on their dollar menu. There are no items on their dollar menu. I mean, how sad and funny is that? The CEO of McDonald's admitted inflation has wreaked havoc on their menu prices, with the average cost of a Big Mac meal now over $10, which is why 80% of people say it's a luxury to go to McDonald's. It's insane. On a personal note, I took my dad and my wife to a modest Italian restaurant in our small town here. 3 entrees, we shared a salad, and 3 glasses of wine cost us $170 and that included the tip. I had spaghetti with meatballs, my dad had lasagna, and my wife had salmon with pasta, and we all shared a Caesar salad. $170. Now, speaking of California, as I say, what goes on there never stays there. You won't believe who Gavin Newsom, the governor, is targeting now. California is back at it, leading the nation in destroying the backbone of the economy. I mean, just wait until Newsom becomes president. It's not if, folks, it's when. It's a scary, scary thought. Imagine wanting to obliterate independent contractors and small businesses so badly that you'd even go after your own supporters. That's right. Hollywood is now in Newsom's crosshairs. Even if you don't care about Californians or Hollywood, don't get too comfortable. California's terrible ideas often go national and international. Independent contractors or gig workers who prefer flexible work arrangements, right, represent about 70 million people in the workforce here in the US. And instead of being employees, they operate as contractors, managing their own businesses, expenses, and taxes. In Hollywood, many creatives like producers and writers and actors work as contractors through what we call a loan-out company. And when a company hires a loan-out company, it's like hiring any other contractor instead of making someone an employee. So why would they be doing this? Here's the key. Because contractors can't be unionized. And unions are pushing to make contracting nearly impossible, if not illegal. That's the game here, folks. It's all about unions and control over these people. Unions and this left-wing government love unions because they can control and buy them for votes. In March, the Biden administration's Department of Labor enforced a rule against independent contractors, trying to reclassify more contractors as employees. And it was inspired by California's anti-contractor rule, AB5. And folks, this spells disaster for small businesses and independent contractors. If California disallows these entities, figuring out who owes future and back taxes could result in a massive accounting mess with hefty penalties for small companies and Hollywood. And here's the kicker. If California declares these business entities invalid, here's the question. Will the federal government follow suit? If Biden or another Democrat like Newsom is elected, you can bet on it. Absolutely. As I said earlier, California leads the nation in crushing the backbone of the economy, and this is just more proof of that. They did it during COVID, now with AB5, and now they're trying to consolidate the power of unions and big businesses even further. Folks, this will spread nationwide. As I always say, sort of the theme of my show is that elections have consequences. Speaking of crushing the backbone of the economy, let's shift gears to Biden, because Biden wants to raise your taxes, right? And he said it out loud. And here are the 5 reasons even he should learn to love the Trump tax cuts. And keep this in mind the next time you're debating with one of your liberal friends. And here they are. First, more money in your pocket. That's been proven with tax cuts. The Trump tax cuts gave the average family an extra $2,000 per year. That's more cash for groceries, bills, or just a little peace of mind, right? Biden's tax hike plan, say goodbye to that cushion. Number 2, boosting the economy. Lower taxes historically, if you go back in time, lower taxes mean people spend more, driving economic growth. Raising taxes is a surefire way to slow things down. That's been proven over and over and over again. Our GDP came in at 1.3% when economists expected 2.4%. That's an anemic and dangerous number. Third, supporting small businesses. The Trump tax cuts didn't just help families, they helped small businesses as well. Look, lower taxes mean more funds for hiring, expanding, and innovating. Biden's approach could strangle the lifeblood of our economy when or if he raises taxes as he said he wants to. Fourth, encouraging investment. Lower taxes mean businesses and individuals are more likely to invest in new ventures. It makes common sense, leading to job creation and advancement. Higher taxes like putting the do not disturb sign on progress. And finally, fifth, Lower taxes make America more competitive. The tax cuts make America more attractive to businesses worldwide. Higher taxes could send them running to other countries. We've seen this before, taking jobs and innovation with them. Biden has said it. He wants to raise your taxes. But maybe he should take a closer look at what the Trump tax cuts have done for everyday Americans. But you know he won't. Instead of taking away those savings, he should be figuring out a way to keep that extra money where it belongs, which is in your wallet. Now, on top of all of that, I mean, it's just staggering. Biden wants to raise corporate taxes. In a March fact sheet, the White House grumbled about the enormous tax breaks corporations got in 2017, and he promised to raise taxes in the name of fairness. But here's the thing: the Trump tax cuts were a boon for American workers. The Tax Cuts and the Jobs Act of 2017 under Trump spurred businesses to invest in innovation, technology, software, equipment, and facilities, and employees. It also made U.S. corporations more competitive internationally by reducing the corporate tax, which indirectly boosted workers' wages. Do you see how this all works together? It's like a cascading effect. When Congress slashed the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%, 35 to 21, it triggered an economic boom. The new international tax code attracted more investment, research, and intellectual property back to the U.S. And it's estimated that every dollar of corporate tax reduction increased economic production by 44 cents. That's huge, folks. For workers, inflation-adjusted earnings grew by 9% from January 2018 to December of 2020. It's the fastest growth since the government started publishing data in 1979. The corporate tax cut has been a win at America's workers' backs for years. Yet our lawmakers on the left seem to forget these lessons. Biden wants to jack up the corporate tax to 28%, which, when combined with state taxes, would make the U.S. the second highest taxing nation among the 38 members of the OECD. This tax rate would surpass China. And who gets hit hardest by these increases? It's always the workers, always. It's always the middle and the lower class that gets hammered the most. The Treasury Department's own research suggests that raising the corporate tax rate to 28% would, by 2034, get this, impose a $500 billion tax hike on families earning less than about $300,000 a year. And of course, that breaks Biden's promise that no one, as he says, no one earning less than $400,000 will pay a penny in new taxes. That's just total nonsense. That's a bald-faced lie. Here's the bottom line. Corporations operate for their shareholders by hiring employees to produce and sell goods and services. And if Washington passes a corporate tax hike, the burden always falls on shareholders, workers, and customers, the trifecta. Higher taxes mean lower dividends for retirees, lower wages for workers, and higher prices for customers. It's the perfect storm. The choice isn't just between the current rate and tax hikes. We need a competitive corporate rate paired with enhanced fairness, greater simplicity, and faster economic growth. This is crucial. This is crucial for preserving opportunities and competitiveness for American workers. And here's another thing. I often highlight how middle-class households under Trump thrive compared to the Obama and Biden years. And let me just remind you, median income rose more in Trump's 4 years in office than under Bush, Obama, and Biden combined, folks. You may hate Trump, but this is a fact. Median incomes rose more in Trump's 4 years in office than under Bush, Obama, and Biden combined. And by the way, this analysis includes the lockdown year of 2020 when incomes collapsed because the economy shut down for almost half a year. It's also meaningful to look at these 4 presidents' records per year in office. The middle class did twice as well under Trump than under Obama. And under Biden, the middle class has lost income. Now, let me talk about the economic progress for Blacks, Hispanics, and Asians under Trump versus Biden. Each of these groups saw higher income gains under Trump than Biden. Blacks saw their income rise by an average of $4,500 under Trump. That's 5 times higher than Biden. 5 times higher than Biden. Hispanics got a $5,280 boost under Trump compared to just $320 under Biden. And Asians enjoyed nearly a $10,000 average family income rise under Trump, which was 6 times the gains under Biden. And yet we're constantly bombarded by the media messages branding Trump as a racist. It's just so typical. They know that Trump has done so much better for those individuals, Blacks, Asians, and Hispanics and other minorities, that they have to mask it by calling him a racist. They cannot admit what Trump has done for everybody in this country. Meanwhile, you have Biden running TV ads in battleground states accusing Trump of setting blacks back. I mean, it's such a blatant lie. Funny because Biden seems the one doing a pretty good job of that himself. All right, with that, let me take a deep breath. I told you this show is stacked. We're delivering the receipts today for sure. So I need to update you on what's happening on the bigger level, the macro level. And the federal budget has ballooned to a whopping $7 trillion. And the government is gearing to borrow another $1.5 trillion this year. Folks, our government is expected to spend $7 trillion. We only take in about $4.8 trillion. And if you're wondering what's causing this ocean of debt, if you're thinking maybe it's Social Security or Medicaid or Medicare or food stamps, you're close, but not quite. And according to a recent House Budget Committee report, under President Biden, the spending on interest for the debt that we have accumulated has surged by an unbelievable 152%. Remember, as I've talked about, we're about to hit $35 trillion in debt. That 152% increase in the interest on that debt is about 5 times faster than any other major program. So basically, we're borrowing money to pay off borrowed money. Doesn't sound too smart, right? And sadly, most people I see that I share this with, they look at me with a blank stare. They shrug their shoulders and like say, well, who cares? It's not affecting me. I mean, it's just scary. And by the way, on a side note, this is crazy. Have you ever seen Joe Biden's schedule, his daily schedule? It's put out there every single day for everyone to see. It's absolutely insane. Why? Because there's nothing on it. And you can find it at rollcall.com/fact-based/Biden/topic/calendar. I know that's a lot. Or just Google Joe Biden's daily schedule and you'll find it. You'll find the link to rollcall.com. I mean, every day it's crazy. Example, 10 a.m., the president receives the daily brief. And then there's nothing after that. And most of the time he's traveling to his beach house in Delaware. He does absolutely nothing. And I guess that's a good thing. I should probably be grateful for that. Okay, just a couple more stories and we'll wrap it up. The next one is out of Chicago, what used to be my favorite city in America until the left destroyed it. I mean, literally, that place is a dumpster fire. Chicago has the second worst debt load of any large city in America, almost $40 billion in total. And the taxes in the Windy City already rank among the highest in the nation. Chicago's taxation is also brutal on businesses, and their tax on industrial properties is nearly double the average cost of other cities. And crime is just through the roof. And so for obvious reasons, to make matters worse, the population is shrinking as more people flee the state, just as they are in California. On top of that, Chicago has a $34 billion pension debt and has enough assets in their pension for about 25% of its pension obligations and nothing set aside for healthcare. I mean, it's scary. It's 75% underfunded. And now, get this, Chicago's mayor-elect, Brandon Johnson, said there's not enough investment in the city's social programs and said he's willing to raise taxes even higher to pay for them. And take a wild guess what's going to happen when he does that. I mean, it's obvious. But this is what I really wanted to talk about. So to solve the many problems of a very broken city, the state of Illinois imposed a zero credit card price control on sales tax. Let me explain. Governor Pritzker of Illinois was a horrible governor with way too much power. I mean, just a really bad person. He shoved this proposal through over the Memorial Day weekend with final passage a few days later on Wednesday. So here it is. When you pay for something with a credit card, there's a fee that credit card company charges on the entire amount. It includes the sales tax. Now, those credit card fees will not apply to the sales tax portion of the bill. In order to comply with this, restaurants and retailers will have to run your credit card twice, once for the total purchase price on the items you're buying, and then a second time for the tax and the tip with no charge on that second transaction. I mean, it's unbelievable. And of course, the disruptive consequences are never mentioned or probably even talked about. This is going to lead to less fraud protection, erosion of reward programs, less availability of credit for low-income individuals, and I guarantee you this will mean less in tips for food workers. And this is their priority in a city that's literally on fire. I mean, these meaningless policies, so they can just pretend they're doing something. Typical example of confusing activity with accomplishment. Meanwhile, their state and their cities go up in flames, and they're fooling around with credit card transactions, which will only make things worse. Folks, that's the left. That's the left government in action. I mean, it happens on both sides, but my gosh, it is so prevalent on the left. Then you have New York City, a train wreck happening in real time. And given all their financial problems, debt problems, pension problems, and a huge spike in crime, New York State will start charging a congestion tax on every vehicle entering New York City. Yeah, that's going to solve their problems, right? While more people flee that state, the cities and states like Florida, they are now charging an extra tax on top of the many tolls you pay to drive there. And again, this will just gouge the hardworking middle and lower income class once again. And the powers to be, in other words, the elitists in charge, are saying the purpose of this is to remove an estimated 100,000 vehicles from city streets every day in New York. And of course, it's to save the planet, no matter the cost and the disruption to commerce and business activity. With 100,000 fewer cars going into New York, do you think that'll help the economy or make things worse? And of course, to achieve their environmental goal, there will be a congestion toll of $15 per car per day and approximately $30 per truck every single day. I mean, could you imagine getting hit with this every single day just trying to get to work? On top of this, we have ridiculously high gas prices. Car insurance premiums have skyrocketed, and now they're adding another $300 per month for an individual driving into the city just to get to their job. And trucks even more. The city is crumbling financially, and this is what they're doing. I'm telling you, this is a very, very dangerous experiment. And a lot of eyes are in New York City from other mayors and other governors looking to do the same. Elections have consequences, and this will have devastating economic consequences, especially given their fragile economic ecosystem. But they'll never learn, and they never care. And lastly, finally, in my segment titled "The Government Never Ceases to Amaze," the U.S. government has decided to be the port authority for Gaza in the Middle East. Given the intense fighting going on over there, the Biden administration decided to build a port along the coast of Gaza on the Mediterranean Sea to boost the amount of humanitarian aid getting to the Palestinian civilians. Sounds like a very noble idea and very humanitarian, and I'm all for it. But once again, another debacle by the Biden administration. I mean, at least you can say he's consistent. I mean, can you pinpoint anything that they've accomplished or they haven't destroyed? So they spent $320 million of our money, and they haven't even distributed 1,000 metric tons within 3 months. I mean, in typical form, they didn't plan this out properly, and now the entire pier has to be dismantled because of rising seas and weather. All in all, they'll be able to deliver about 7,000 metric tons of aid, which is great. But this means each pound will cost American taxpayers $20,730. I mean, it's stuff like this. Oh man, drives me crazy. All right, I'll end with this. This last one is pretty telling of our younger generation, and really one indication of how much damage has been caused by the addiction to smartphones and social media and young adults' inability to communicate. And this survey came from an organization called intelligent.com at the end of 2023, about 6 months ago. And this is a study of employers interviewing recent college graduates. And during the job interview, employers reported that 53% of recent college graduates struggled with eye contact. 50% asked for unreasonable compensation. 47% dressed inappropriately. 27% used inappropriate language. 21% refused to turn on their camera during a virtual interview. And get this last one. 19% brought a parent to their interview. 19% brought a parent to their interview. Holy moly. Folks, we are doomed if this is the next generation that's going to run this country. All right, well, that's it for today. Thanks so much. I hope you found this information interesting and took something away from it. Remember, knowledge is power, and staying informed is a key to thriving in today's market, and that's what this show is all about. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Oh, gosh. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Leave your comments below. Love to hear your thoughts and where you are finding opportunities and also disasters. Don't forget to check out my cash flow and wealth building system at johnmacgregor.net/free masterclass. That's johnmacgregor.net/free masterclass. It really is a game changer. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time on Full Disclosure. Take care. Happy investing. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Aloha.